Hey everybody, happy Monday and welcome to my Sana Q&As. I'm Meredith Miller, Inner Integration Coach, and I'm answering your questions today. Just as a reminder, please to use the link below in the video description to leave your questions for me on the particular page of my website to make it easy for me to pull those every week. So this person's question says, my narcissistic ex-boyfriend showed up at my home after 3 months of no contact. I called the police, and they warned him if he shows up at my home again, he will be arrested. He showed up again 2 weeks later. This time I took a picture of him banging on my patio door. I called the police. He left before the police came. The police spoke with me and asked what's going on. I told them he's harassing me. I want him to leave me alone, but nothing was done. What can I do to stop this harassment? So I'm really sorry that you're dealing with this stalker situation at your home like that. It must really feel so violating for him to be doing that after you made it clear that you don't want any more contact with him. So I have a couple suggestions. I have a few suggestions. The first one is when everything is out of control in your life and it's like you don't have control over anything, like you don't have control over his decisions and his insanity and him coming over there and doing what he's doing, like you may have no control over that at all. So when I find myself in situations when I can do nothing and all of that is out of my control, I focus on radical self-care. I take care of me. I make sure that I feel safe, that I feel comfortable, that I feel like I'm doing a good job taking care of myself. I'm supporting myself in my mind, in my body, in my spirit. I'm doing activities that support my health, my wellness, my sanity, my sense of love and joy as well. So I would encourage you that as soon as it gets stressful and you just don't know what to do, redirect yourself toward radical self-care. Challenge yourself. What is one thing I can do right now to make myself feel safe? What is one thing I can do for myself right now that makes me feel happy? What's one thing I can do right now that makes me feel joyous and alive, right? And then do that thing. So another suggestion I have, I don't know how much you want to go down this path. Some people explore this path and it works for some people. For other people, it doesn't work. I'm not sure what country you live in, but here in the United States, it goes state by state and every state is slightly different. But typically they offer two options. One is a restraining order, and that is against a person you've had a personal relationship, like your ex-boyfriend in this case. The other one is a stalker protection order, which as far as I understand means you didn't have a personal relationship. This is just somebody who targeted you and is stalking you. Either way, typically you have to go to a police precinct and or they send you to the court, and it's usually through the family court, which is bizarre because sometimes these people have nothing to do with the domestic violence situation. It's just an outside stalker, right? So I would explore this if it's something that you feel called to do. I would urge some caution here. This person already knows where you live. He's your ex-boyfriend. So that's a different situation. But to anyone who's listening to this, who's dealing with like a cyber stalking situation, for example, and the stalker doesn't know where you live, you cannot file the stalker protection order, at least in most states. That's what I found out here in Portland, Oregon, was that when I went there, they wanted me to give my address on the paperwork to the stalker. I was like, are you serious? I don't understand. What is the point of this order, the stalker protection order? It really sounds like a silver platter order, just offering this information to the stalker. Why would I do that? And then they also wanted you to hire a private investigator to track down their address, to hire a local sheriff in that area to serve the person that paperwork. And then it starts, and when I confronted the woman who was just an absolute bitch, I mean, I'm going to call it like it is. she does not belong working in an office like that, because if you look at statistics online, 20%, that's 1 out of 5 people who walks in that door, it's a matter of life and death for them. That's how dangerous the stalking situation is 20% of people, it's a matter of their death. They could die from the stalker, right? So that means that woman, if she says this, for every 5 people walking in, right, how many lives is she putting at risk? And what she said to me was, well, if you fill that paperwork out, you have to give him your address. And when I said, well, that doesn't make any sense, and what other addresses can I use? Well, it has to be one of your addresses, work or home. And I said, now, knowing that this person is a psychopath, which address would you give him? And she goes, well, that's just the way it is. And I was like, wow, okay, so that's not the option for me, right? So I don't know if that's an option for you. I don't know if it works for you. I don't know if maybe it's easier for you because this guy is your ex and he already knows where you live. So that's just already out in the open anyways. But getting that restraining order, if that works out for you, would literally mean that if he violates that, he would be put into jail. That's how it's supposed to work. And it sounds like you don't have one of these yet. The police threatened that to him, but then he showed up again and then nothing happened. So if you feel comfortable and you feel like that's the path for you, then maybe you need to pursue that. I would urge caution to anyone in that situation where the stalker doesn't know where you live, because that's just crazy. And if you happen to get down that path and you realize that they're not helping you, and you meet a character like that woman that I met, it might be that you realize the state will not help you. The state system was not set up to help you. Oh, because by the way, when you go to court, then, because you have to go to court to get this restraining order or protection order, and so they make you go to court with the perpetrator, right? So the court system obviously has zero understanding of Stockholm Syndrome. They don't know what Stockholm Syndrome is. They don't know what a trauma bond is, because if they actually understood that or consulted professional psychologists and psychiatrists who actually understood that, they would never put a victim and a perpetrator in the same room. They would never do that, right? But that's how messed up our system is. Our system is not set up to help and serve, which is the idea of that system as far as I understood it. Yes, I'm a bit cynical because I've had experience in that system. What I learned for myself was that when I got no help in that system, and nobody really wanted to help, right? So when I got no help, I realized there was nothing I can do out there. I had no control of any of that, and all I could do was focus on radical self-care, was take care of myself, makes myself feel safe, loved, comfortable, joyful, doing something that I loved, hanging out with people that I loved, and just not going there, like not investing my mental and emotional energy in there. And eventually the situation went away all on its own, right? So my suggestion to you is, if you feel comfortable to go down that road, and it sounds like you have documentation to support that, and the police have already showed up, keep filing police reports when he harasses you. Keep documenting his harassment. Keep absolutely zero contact with him, and I mean nothing. Like, don't shout at him out the door. Don't tell him to go away. Definitely don't open your door. Don't call him. Don't text him. Don't email him. Nothing. Right? Because any of those contacts, he's going to get off on that. Doesn't matter if you're angry, if you're upset, if you're happy, if you're excited, it doesn't matter. He's going to get off on that, because the only message that he hears is, I must be important. If she's contacting me and she's this upset, I must be really important to her, right? So you're only feeding the monster. So you want to completely starve that monster. You want to give him zero supply, zero contact. You've already given him warning not to contact you. That's it. From now on, either you handle it through the police, and if that situation, that direction doesn't work for you, then you handle it inside yourself with radical self-care, and I promise you things will change. But you can't have any contact with him, because you have contact with him, it's like you keep the situation alive. You have to starve him. You have to starve the situation. Don't give it any thought. And I mean, even psychically, right? So when you've had this deep connection with somebody, you've been in a relationship with one of these narcissist psychopaths, we don't know who this guy is, right? But he's something along those lines, and you have a deep psychic connection. So when you're thinking about him and you're sending the power of your emotional, mental energy in that direction, at some level, he knows it, he feels it, and it encourages him to keep going. So now you have to be a ninja warrior of your mind. Every time your mind goes towards him, you need to start being vigilant. You need to become the stalker of your own inner dialogue, right? This comes from shamanism. Carlos Castaneda, right? He worked with this teacher in Mexico, Don Juan, and Don Juan taught him to be a stalker of his inner dialogue. What does that mean? That means as soon as a thought comes by and you don't like that thought, you don't want that thought, you don't want to invest in that thought, you need to nip that thought before it becomes the downward spiral, eliciting all that emotional energy. Cancel, 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 delete, 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 and then redirect yourself to something else. This is an incredibly powerful technology to use with your mind, to rewrite your programming, to reprogram your mind. It is like one of the most important skills to learn as you're healing from narcissistic abuse, because what you don't realize is that you're feeding it, right? It seems like, well, how could that be? This is all inside of me. But remember, everything is connected, and like what you're sending out is meaningful. It's connecting to him. It's encouraging him if you're thinking about it and obsessing about it and indulging in thoughts about him. So starve him from that energy too. It's really hard at first because all the momentum is going towards that, the thinking about that, the stewing in it, the indulging in those thoughts and emotions and flashbacks and memories. And it's not your fault, right? But you got to get control of your mind if you want to change it. And that's where it takes place, is with your focus and where you're putting your attention. Incredibly important. So be mindful of that. And at first, it's going to be hard to overcome that inertia of the easy way is just go down that direction. But that direction doesn't lead to inner peace. It doesn't lead to feeling safe. It leads to feelings of violation and just constant rehashing of all the pain of the past. So you need to set it up that you tell yourself why. Like, why is it important to redirect over here to something else? And it's like, it's going to be really hard to do that at first because there's so much gravity pulling you to the old patterns. But after about a month of every day, and I mean every day, all day long, being that stalker of your mind and your thoughts and your inner dialogue, and stopping this process and redirecting it, it's going to be so much easier. And at the end of that month, especially if you journal what was going on that month, you'll look back and see the progress, and you'll be amazed at how different your mind is. You realize how much more positive your mindset is, how much more clear you are, how much easier it is to get stuff done. And probably by the end of that month, that jerk will be gone. He'll have found a new target because he's starving next to you. He's not getting anything. He needs narcissistic supply, and you're not giving it by completely denying him that. And what you're giving him literally of contact and the mental, emotional, psychic contact that you're sending in his direction. So if he comes to your house, let him make the fool of himself outside, call the police immediately. Take a photo, take a video, call the police immediately. You know, don't just feel victimized by the situation. Call the police and take care of yourself. Make sure you take care of yourself. Radical self-care. When there's nothing else you can do, when you don't know what else to do, practice radical self-care. So I'm sending you a big hug.